Shalom, my name is Adam, and I welcome you to the parable of the vineyard. Every day, Yahuah is waking up a remnant, a group of people who are coming out of deceptions, realizing our walk is to consist of faith and obedience to his righteous commands. Each week, we read through and examine a portion of the Torah, allowing the Spirit of the Most High to guide, teach, and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters out of his law. Join us as we seek to be refined by his word, preparing ourselves for the return of our King of Kings, being faithful and obedient, walking in his way, truth, and life. Shabbat Shalom and welcome, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the Torah portions. This is week 9, Vayeshev, which is Genesis 37:1 through 40:23. And this is about Joseph's dreams. Tamar and Judah, Joseph is sold, Joseph and Potiphar's wife, and the two dreams interpreted by Joseph in jail. So a lot to cover in here. So no need for me to talk about anything else about the Torah portion. So let's pray and let's get going. Heavenly Father, Yahuah Most High, we just come before you and we thank you for allowing us to gather together like this, to call an assembly, a public gathering, a public reading of your scriptures, that we may grow together, and that we pray that you help give us understanding and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters of your Torah. May you be blessed. And we praise you and thank you for sending Messiah Yahusha, that we may be reconciled back to you, our King of Kings and our Adonai of Adonim. We love you and we bless you. Amen. All right, so Vayeshev, here we go. We have a lot to discuss on this one. I think this might be a longer one, like some of the others. So here we go. Going to read chapter 37. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Should I zoom in a little more, or is that big enough for you guys? Maybe I'll just leave it where it is. Okay. Genesis 37:1. And Yaakov dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Yaakov. Yosef, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's woman. And Yosef brought unto his father their evil report. We're going to find out what that evil report is here in a little bit when we read the other scriptures. Now Yashrael loved Yosef more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Last week I posed the question about having favorites. A couple of you emailed me, and some of you were pretty stern as to not have a favorite, and I can certainly see why. And as we'll see in this Torah portion, we see some of the repercussions of having many children and having one favorite stand out. Pretty much puts a target on their back. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, I hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more. And behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to you to the earth? And his brothers envied him, but his father observed the saying. And I've got a little note here to Jasher 41, 2 through 3. And it was in those days, in that year, being the 106th year of the life of Yaakov, and the 10th year of Yaakov's coming from Padan Aram, that Leah, the wife of Yaakov, died. She was 51 years old when she died in Hebron. And Yaakov and his sons buried her in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which is in Hebron, which Abraham had brought from the children of Heth for the possession of a burial place. So, ouch. So, two of Yaakov's wives, his original wives, died both at a very young age, and poor Leah, it seemed like she kind of had like a rough go at things, and I just really feel for Leah. I really do. But she bore 6 sons unto Yaakov, and she bore some amazing men, and may she be recompensed in New Jerusalem. Yeah. Okay. So keep moving on. Genesis 37:12. And his brethren went to feed with their father's flock in Shechem. And Yashrael said unto Yosef, do not your brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you unto them. And he said to him, here I am. And he said to him, go, I pray you, see whether it be well with your brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, what do you seek? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray you, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, they are departed hence, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, behold, this dreamer comes. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, some evil beast has devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat, and his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, and there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites, came from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Mitzrayim, Egypt. And Yehudah said unto his brethren, what profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him into the Ishmaelim, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh, and his brethren were content. Then there passed by Midianim merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of a pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelim for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Mitzrayim. And Reuben returned into the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he rent his clothes, and he returned unto his brethren, and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat, and killed a kid of the goats, and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father, and said, this have we found. Know now whether it be your son's coat or no. And he knew it, and said, it is my son's coat. An evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is without rent in pieces. And Yaakov rent his clothes, and put sackcloth upon his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into Sheol unto my son mourning. For thus his father wept for him. And the Midianim sold him unto Mitzrayim, unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's, and a captain of the guard. So now let's read some parallel verses in books like Yashar and the Targums, and the Testament of some of these brethren. Let's get a full grasp of what happened here. First of all, where is that? I thought I had a oh, maybe all my notes didn't save. I had a picture of what the pit that Joseph was cast into might have looked like, but I didn't put that down. Okay, I'll take a look at that later. All right, so let's read the Jasher account, which is Jasher 41, 9 19 through 34. And Yaakov saw that his sons were delayed in Shechem, and Yaakov said within himself, peradventure the people of Shechem have risen up to fight against them, therefore they have delayed coming this day. And Yaakov called Yosef his son and commanded him, saying, behold, thy brethren are feeding in Shechem this day, and behold, they have not yet come back. Go now, therefore, and see where they are at, and bring me word back concerning the welfare of thy brethren and the welfare of the flock. And Yaakov sent his son Yosef to the valley of Hebron, and Yosef came for his brothers to Shechem, and could not find them. And Yosef went about the field which was near Shechem to see where his brothers had turned, and he missed his road in the wilderness, and knew not which way he should go. So he got lost. And an angel of Yahuah found him wandering in the road toward the field, and Yosef said unto the angel of Yahuah, I seek my brethren, hast thou not heard where they are feeding? And the angel of Yahuah said unto Yosef, I saw thy brethren feeding here, and I heard them say that they would go feed in Dothan. And Yosef hearkened to the voice of the angel of Yahuah, and he went to his brethren in Dothan, and found them in Dothan feeding the flock. And Yosef advanced to his brethren, and before he had come nigh unto them, they had resolved to slay him. And Simeon said to his brethren, behold, the man of dreams is coming unto us this day, and now therefore come, and let us kill him, and cast him in one of the pits that are in the wilderness. And when his father shall seek him from us, we will say, an evil beast has devoured him. And Reuben heard the words of his brethren concerning Yosef, and he said unto them, you should not do this thing, for how can we look up to our father Yaakov? Cast him into this pit and die there, but stretch forth not a hand upon him to spill his blood. And Reuben said this in order to deliver him from their hand, to bring him back to his father. And when Yosef came to his brethren, he sat before them, and they rose up upon him, and seized him, and smote him to the earth, and stripped the coat of many colors which he had on. They took him and cast him into a pit, and in the pit there was no water, but serpents and scorpions. Wow, that would not be cool. I'm not afraid of much these days, but I do not like serpents and scorpions and spiders and other creeping things that bite you. And Yosef was afraid of the serpents and the scorpions that were in the pit. I guess we're in good company. And Yosef cried out with a loud voice, and Yahuah hid the serpents and scorpions in the sides of the pit, and they did no harm unto Yosef. And Yosef called out from the pit to his brethren, and said unto them, what have I done to you? And in what have I sinned? Why do you not fear Yahuah concerning me? Am I not of your bones and flesh? And is not Yaakov your father, my father? Why do you this thing to me in this day? And how will you be able to look upon our father Yaakov? And he continued to cry out and to call unto his brethren from the pit. And he said, O Judah, Simeon, and Levi, my brethren, lift me up from the place of darkness in which you have placed me, and come this day to have compassion on me, ye children of Yahuah, and the sons of Yaakov my father. And if I have sinned unto you, are you not the sons of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? If they saw an orphan, they had compassion over him, or one that was hungry, they gave him bread to eat, or one that was thirsty, they gave him water to drink, or one that was naked, and they covered him with garments. This reminds me of when Yahusha at the end separates the sheep and the goats, and he's like, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was a stranger, you took me in. And he's like, they're like, when did we do these things? And he's like, when he did it unto the least of these my brethren, he did it unto me. So just thought that was kind of cool. And how then will you withhold your pity from your brother? For I am of your flesh and bones. And if I have sinned unto you, surely you will do this on account of my father. And Yosef spoke these words from the pit, and his brethren could not listen to him, nor incline their ears to the words of Yosef. And Yosef was crying and weeping in the pit. And Yosef said, oh, that my father knew this day the act which my brothers have done unto me, and the words which they have this day spoken unto me. And all his brethren heard his cries and weeping in the pit, and his brethren went and removed themselves from the pit, so that they might not hear the cries of Yosef and the weeping in the pit. Now let's read a quick little section in Jubilees. Jubilees, where are we at? 34, 12 through 17. And the sons of Yaakov slaughtered a kid and dipped the coat of Yosef in the blood and sent it to Yaakov their father in the 10th of the 7th month. So they're equating this with the Day of Atonement. And he mourned all that night, for they had brought it to him in the evening, and he became feverish with mourning for his death. And he said, an evil beast hath devoured Yosef, and all the members of his house mourned with him that day, and they were grieving and mourning with him all that day. And his sons and his daughter rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted for his son. And on that day Bilhah heard that Yosef had perished, and she died mourning for him, and she was living in Kaphtareth, and Dinah also his daughter died after Yosef had perished. And there came these 3 mournings upon Yisrael in 1 month. And they buried Bilhah over against the tomb of Rachel, and Dinah also his daughter they buried there. And he mourned for Yosef 1 year and did not cease, for he said, let me go down to the grave, mourning for son. All right, so we'll stop there. Okay, and let's also read the Testament of Yosef. So this is the Testament of Yosef, chapter 1. We're going to read verses 5 through chapter 2, verses 5 through 8. Okay, so verse 5. These my brethren hated me, but Yahuah loved me. They wished to slay me, but the Elohim of my fathers guarded me. They let me down into a pit, and the Most High brought me up again. I was sold into slavery, and Yahuah of all made me free. I was taken into captivity, and his strong hand succored me. I was beset with hunger, and Yahuah himself nourished me. I was alone, and Yahuah comforted me. I was sick, and Yahuah visited me. I was in prison, and my Elohim showed favor unto me. In bonds, and he released me. Slandered, and he pleaded my cause. Bitterly spoken against by the Egyptians, and he delivered me. Envied by my fellow slaves, and he exalted me. And this chief captain of Pharaoh entrusted me to his house, and I struggled against the shameless woman, urging me to transgress with her. But the Elohim of Yisrael, my father, delivered me from the burning flame. I was cast into prison. I was beaten. I was mocked. But Yahuah granted me to find mercy in the sight of the keeper of the prison. For Yahuah doth not forsake them that fear him, neither in darkness, nor in bonds, nor in tribulations, nor in necessities. For Elohim is not put to shame as a man, nor as the son of man is he afraid, nor as one that is earthborn he is weak or affrighted. But in all those things doth he give protection, and in diverse ways doth he comfort. For though a little space he departeth to try the inclination of the soul, in 10 temptations he showed me approved, and in all of them I endured. For endurance is a mighty charm, and patience giveth many good things. Boy, I need to learn from this. One thing I still need to work on, brothers and sisters, is patience. Just being honest with you. But and this is something we also have to understand. It says, for though a little space he departeth to try the inclination of the soul. So even though you might be seeking him with prayer and fasting and weeping with all you have, and he's not answering, stick with it. Stick with him. Stick with it. We're going to skip to chapter 2, verses 5 through 8. My brethren knew how my father loved me, yet I did not exalt myself in my mind. Although I was a child, I had the fear of Elohim in my heart, for I knew that all things would pass away. And I did not raise myself against them with evil intent, but I honored my brethren. And out of respect for them, even when I was being sold, I refrained from telling the Ishmaelites that I was the son of Yaakov, a great man and a mighty. Do ye also, my children, have the fear of Elohim in all your works before your eyes, and honor your brethren. For everyone who doeth the Torah of Yahuah shall be loved by him. Amen. Okay, let's take a look at the Testament of Simeon, chapter 1, verses 7 through 20. For in the time of my youth I was jealous in many things of Yosef, because my father loved him beyond all. And I set my mind against him to destroy him, because the prince of deceit sent forth the spirit of jealousy and blinded my mind, so that I regarded him not as a brother, nor did I spare even Yaakov my father. But his Elohim and the Elohim of his fathers sent forth his angel and delivered him out of my hands. For when I went to Shechem to bring ointment for the flocks, and Reuben to Dothan, where were our necessaries and all our stores, Judah my brother sold him to the Ishmaelites. And when Reuben heard these things, he was grieved, for he wished to restore him to his father. But on hearing this, I was exceedingly wroth against Judah, in that he let him go away alive. And for 5 months I continued wrathful against him. But Yahuah restrained me, and withheld me from the power of my hands. For my right hand was half withered for 7 days. And I knew, my children, that because of Yosef this had befallen me. And I repented and wept, and besought Yahuah Elohiym that my hand might be restored, and that I might hold aloof from all pollution and envy and from all folly. For I knew that I had devised an evil thing before Yahuah and Yaakov my father, on account of Yosef my brother, in that I envied him. And now, my children, Hearken unto me, and beware of the spirit of deceit and envy. For envy ruleth over the whole mind of a man, and suffereth him neither to eat, nor to drink, nor to do any good thing. But it ever suggesteth to him to destroy him that he that envieth. So as long as he that is envied flourisheth, he that envieth fadeth away. So this is saying that as long as the person that is being envied by somebody, as long as they're flourishing, the person that envies fades away and is just turned into nothing. 2 years therefore I afflicted my soul with fasting and the fear of Yahuwah, and I learned that deliverance from envy cometh by the fear of Elohim. For if a man flee to Yahuwah, the evil spirit runneth away from him, and his mind is lightened. And henceforward he sympathizeth with him whom he envied, and forgiveth those who are hostile to him, and so ceaseth from his envy. And boy, oh boy, unfortunately, this right here, this envying is very rampant in our day and age, even in our circles, even in our small circles of called out believers, believing in Messiah, followers of Messiah, keeping the Torah, keeping the commandments. There's actually a lot of envy that goes on. And unfortunately, it also happens, in YouTube realm. Like, for whatever reason, people get envious if one person's, channel is bigger than the other, or gets more view. Like who cares? Are you serious? But I'm here to tell you that I've seen this firsthand. People have gotten envious and jealous, and it's a shame. And I've actually seen people that have envied other people because of growth in the ministry or whatever. The person that envies, not the envied person, but the person that envies, they've withered away. And I've seen it in their walk. I've seen their faith completely crumbled because envy has taken complete hold of that person and has subdued them. So, brothers and sisters, be very careful of envying somebody, especially one of our own. Like, if Yahuwah wants to lift up somebody, he lifts them up. Like, don't be happy for that person, because if someone's preaching the truth and reaching other people, like, you're on the same team. Like, are you serious? So, this may not apply to any of you out here, but let's always lift up our brethren, especially if they be lifted up by Yahuwah, or if they increase, for whatever reason. Like, never have an evil eye towards our brethren, especially when it comes to, this walk. So it's absolutely crazy. And I only mention that because I've seen it firsthand. Really good friends of mine, I've seen it happen to them, and it's taken hold of them. And man, what a shame. Okay, let's look at the testament of Zebulun, chapter 1, verses 5 through 20. Testament of Zebulun. I am not conscious that I have sinned all my days, save in thought, nor yet do I remember that I have done any iniquity, except the sin of ignorance which I committed against Joseph. For I covenanted with my brethren not to tell my father what had been done. But I wept in secret many days on account of Joseph, for I feared my brethren, because they had all agreed that if anyone should declare the secret, he should be slain. But when they wished to kill him, I adjured them much with tears not to be guilty of the sin. For Simeon and Gad came against Joseph to kill him. And he said unto them with tears, Pity me, my brethren, have mercy upon the bowels of Yaakov our father. Lay not upon me your hands to shed innocent blood, for I have not sinned against you. And if indeed I have sinned with chastening, chastise me, my brethren, but lay not upon me your hand for the sake of Yaakov our father. And as he spoke these words, wailing as he did so, I was unable to bear his lamentations, and began to weep, and my liver was poured out, and all the substance of my bowels was loosened. And I wept with Joseph, and my heart sounded, and the joints of my body trembled, and I was not able to stand. And when Joseph saw me weeping with him, and coming against him to slay him, and them coming against him to slay him, he fled behind me, beseeching them. But meanwhile Reuben arose and said, Come, my brethren, let us not slay him, but let us cast him into one of these dry pits, which our father digged and found no water. For this cause Yahuwah forbade that water should rise up in them, in order that Joseph should be preserved. And they did so, until they sold him to the Ishmaelites. For in his price I had no share of my children. But Simeon and Gad and 6 other of our brethren took the price of Joseph, and bought sandals for themselves and their wives and their children, saying, We will not eat of it, for it is the price of our brother's blood, but we will assuredly tread it underfoot. Because he said, that he would be king over us. So let us see what will become of his dreams. Therefore it is written in the writing of the law of Moshe that whoever will not raise up seed to his brother, his sandals shall be unloosed, and they should spit in his face. So, it's Zebulun. Okay, so we'll have to remember that when we come across this in the Torah portion, when we get to there. I couldn't remember it last year. What a shame. Okay. So now we're going to read the Targum chapter, the first paragraph, actually. And Yaakov dwelt in peace in the land of the sojourning of his fathers, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Yaakov. Joseph was a son of 17 years. He had come forth from the school, right? So if you remember when we read in Yashar, that Shem and Eber had a school. First it was Noah and Shem, and then it was Shem and Eber had a school of Yahuah, right? I would have loved to go to that school. So he came from the school and was a youth brought up with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Yosef brought their evil report. Now here we're going to find out why. For he had seen them eat the flesh that had been torn by wild beasts, the ears and the tails. And he came and told it to his father. And Yashrael loved Yosef more than all his sons, because the likeness of Yosef resembled his own. And you know what? I was talking to you all about, I've got 5 children. I've got 2 sons and 3 daughters. And I love all my children. I mean, I love them, and they're just all good children. And I do believe that they're all going to be followers of Yahuah and continue in his goodness. My first son, my eldest son, looks like his mother, which is not a bad thing. But my younger son looks like me. When I look at like my pictures of my childhood, he looks just like me. I mean, he is in my image. And when I look at my son, I can see that he is in my image, and he also happens to be the one that draws closest to me. He's the happens to be the one that seems to want to follow Yahuah the most. He comes up to me. He's like, Daddy, let's do the commandments. So I'm like, yes, okay, all right. And he sings the song of Moshe with me. And so this child is he's my Yosef. But I'm gonna try to do the best I can to not show my favoritism for him. I think I do a pretty good job. I've never heard anything from anybody, not even from my wife, that I show him more favor or anything. But for all those things I mentioned, I think that's kind of why, and I can understand Yaakov. If Yosef resembled his likeness more than any of the others, and it seemed that he had the most genuine heart as well. I can understand, as a father of 5 children, I can understand. Just because of that doesn't mean I don't love my firstborn son, the same. I guess I just, because of some of those reasons, I guess, I don't know. Again, I for a lot of you had written to me and said, oh, it's bad, you can't do that. And I totally get it. I'm just explaining to you why this son tugs on my heart a little more than all my children. And it is what it is. So, and he made him a figured robe, and his brother saw. Okay, and then the rest we've seen before. So, okay, so let's move on now to Genesis 38, Judah and Tamar. And it came to pass at that time that Yehudah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Chira. And Yehudah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shuach. And he took her and went unto her. And she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name And she conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet conceived again and bore a son, and called his name Shelach. And he was at Keziv when she bore him. And Yehudah took a woman for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Yehudah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahuah, and Yahuah slew him. And Yehudah said unto Onan, go in unto your brother's woman, and marry her, and raise up seed unto your brother. So here we see Yehudah is following Torah, which is, raise up seed. Go in unto your brother's wife, because she is childless. Raise up seed unto your brother. And Onan knew that his seed should not be his, and it came to pass when he went in unto his brother's woman, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. So, this is something to consider. If you've got children, maybe just put them in the other room for just a second, because there's something I want to talk about here for a second, and maybe not all ears need to hear this. I'll take a sip of water. I'll wait. So a lot of us know that looking at pornographic images is detestable. It's fornication of the mind. It's you're looking upon the nakedness of somebody. I believe it's fornication, and I think we should flee from pornography and those kind of images. But let's also talk about, and I'm just, again, let's be open here. I also believe that, I think this is Torah, and I think what we can pull from this is that he spilled his semen on the ground, and I think we should really think about masturbation, and I believe that, if you're spilling, if you are doing that act and semen comes out and it's not for procreation and it's not for, your wife, I see it as a bad thing here. Let's read this again. And he went unto his brother's woman, and that he spilled it on the ground. So he spilled his semen on the ground, lest that he should give seed unto his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Yahuah, wherefore he slew him also. So, if you men are still participating in that, in masturbation, I would highly recommend you take that unto Yahuah and meditate on what this is saying right here. The fact that he spilled his seed on the ground was detestable, displeased Yahuah. So, again, I'm not your daddy, I'm not your teacher, I'm just your brother who cares. So, here we go. Verse 11. Then said Yehudah to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at your father's house till Shelach my son be grown. For he said, lest perchance he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in process of time, the daughters of Shuach, Yehudah's woman, died, and Yehudah was comforted. So he was comforted that she died, is how it reads. And I don't know if we'll actually, are we going to read that tonight? Yeah, we are going to read why. It's because she was wicked, and he just couldn't stand her. And went up into his sheep shearer. He went up to his sheep shearers to Timnath, and he and his friend Chira the Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, your father-in-law goes up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelach was grown, and she was not given unto him to be his woman. When Yehudah saw her, he thought her to be a harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, go to, I pray you, let me come in unto you. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, what will you give me, that you may come in unto me? And he said, I will send you a kid from the flock. And she said, will you give me a pledge till you send it? And he said, what pledge shall I give you? And she said, your signet, and your bracelets, and your staff that is in your hand. And he gave it her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Yehudah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adulamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. And he returned unto El Yehudah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of that place said that there was no harlot in this place. And Yehudah said, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and you have not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months after that it was told Yehudah, saying, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Yehudah said, bring her forth, and let her be burnt. And there's a specific reason why he said, let her be burnt, because in this case, he was following Torah. We'll find out here in a bit. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man whose these are, I am with child. And she said, discern, I pray you, who are these, the signet and bracelets and staff? And Yehuda acknowledged them and said, she has been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shilach my son, and he knew her again no more. So, Tamar had a little trickery here, but, she's like, Judah's not giving me his son. I'm just going to die childless in a withered up old widow. And so she tricked Judah, and she had children. And it came to pass in the time of her travail that, behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass when she travailed that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound up upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, this came out first. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, how have you broken forth? This breach be upon you. Therefore his name was called Peretz. And afterwards came out his brother that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerach. So let's take a look at the Testament of Judah, chapter 2, verses 10 through 31. And after these things, my son took to wife Tamar from Mesopotamia, a daughter of Aram. Now was wicked, and he was in need concerning Tamar, because she was not of the land of Canaan. And on the third night, an angel of Yahuah smote him. And he had not known her according to the evil craftiness of his mother, for he did not wish to have children by her. In the days of the wedding feast I gave Onan to her in marriage, and he also in wickedness knew her not, though he spent with her a year. And when I had threatened him, he went in unto her, but he spilled the seed on the ground, according to the command of his mother, and he also died through wickedness. And I wished to give Shelah also to her, but his mother did not permit it, for she wrought evil against Tamar, because she was not of the daughters of Canaan, as she also herself was. And I knew that the race of the Canaanites was wicked, but the impulse of my youth blinded my mind. And when I saw her pouring out wine, owing to the intoxication of wine, I was deceived, and took her, although my father had not counseled it. And while I was away, she went and took for Shelah a wife from Canaan. And when I knew what she had done, I cursed her in the anguish of my soul. And she also died through her wickedness, together with her sons. And after these things, while Tamar was a widow, she heard after 2 years that I was going up to shear my sheep, and adorned herself in bridal array, and sat in the city Enaim by the gate. For it was a law, listen to this, check this out. For it was a law of the Amorites, this is like the wickedness of the laws of the countries, round about. For it was the law of the Amorites that she who was about to marry should sit in fornication 7 days by the gate. So literally, before they got married, they were supposed to play the whore for 7 days and just bring it on. It's like, wow. Talking about a defiled wife. Therefore, being drunk with wine, I did not recognize her, and her beauty deceived me through the fashion of her adorning. And I turned aside to her and said, let me go into you. And she said, what will you give me? And I gave her my staff, my girdle, and the diadem of my kingdom in pledge. And I went in unto her, and she conceived. And not knowing what I had done, I wished to slay her, but she privily sent my pledges and put me to shame. And when I called her, I heard also the secret words which I spoke when lying with her in my drunkenness, and I could not slay her. And I could not slay her because it was from Yahuah. So I guess he was drunk and told her all kinds of stuff, pillow talk. For I said, lest haply she did it in subtlety, having received the pledge from another woman. Anyways, we'll stop there on that one, and now we're going to take a look at the Targums of chapter 8. We're going to read, let's see, chapter 38. We're going to read the first paragraph, and the second paragraph, and then a few more. It was at that time that Yehuda bade gone down from his property and separated himself from his brethren, and had inclined to a man, an Adulamite, whose name was Hira, that Yehuda saw there the daughter of a merchantman whose name was Shuvah, and he proselyted her, and entered with her. And she conceived and bare a son, and called his name because he was to die without a child. And she conceived again and bare a son, and called his name Onan, because his father would have to mourn for him. And she added and bare a son and called his name Shelah, because her husband had forgotten her and was in cessation when she bare him. And Yehudah took a wife for his firstborn, a daughter of Shem the Great, whose name was Tamar. But the firstborn of Yehudah, was evil before Yahuah, because he had not given his seed unto his wife. And the anger of Yahuah prevailed against him, and Yahuah slew him. And Yehudah said unto Onan, Enter thou into thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed unto the name of thy brother. And Onan knew that they would not call the children after his name, and it was, when he entered to the wife of his brother, that he corrupted his work upon the earth, that he might not raise up children to his brother's name. And what he did was evil before Yahuah, and he cut off his days also. So we're going to read also paragraphs 5 through 8. So 3, 4, 5. Here we go. And it was at the time of 3 months that she was known to be with child, and it was told to Yehudah, saying, Tamar, thy daughter-in-law, hath committed fornication, and behold, she is with child by fornication. And Yehudah said, Is she not the daughter of a priest? Let her be brought forth and burned. And that is actually a law of the Torah. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Leviticus 21:9. And the daughter of any priest, if she profane herself by playing the whore, she profaneth her father, she shall be burnt with fire. And so Tamar was a daughter of Shem, a priest, which he was Melchizedek. Let her be brought forth and burnt. Tamar was brought forth to be burned, and she searched for the 3 pledges, but found them not. Uplifting her eyes to the heavens above, she thus said, Mercy, I implore from thee, O Yahuah, answer thou me in this hour of need, and enlighten my eyes to find the 3 witnesses. And I will dedicate unto thee from my loins 3 saints who shall sanctify thy name, and descend to the furnace of fire in the plain of Dura. So she was, and according to the Targums, she was prophesying about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Why do I always remember their Babylonish names? Mishael, Azariah, and Mishael, Azariah. Oh, man. Oh no. Oh my goodness, I am the worst. Why do I always remember their Babylon names, but not... Alright, just never mind. I don't want to waste your time. You guys in the comments, you're gonna slay me in the comments. That's fine. No big deal. I'm not perfect. I can't remember everything. Oh man, sorry. Anyways, so she prophesied apparently about them. In that hour, the Holy One, blessed be he, signed to Michael, who enlightened her eyes, that she found the witnesses, and took and cast them before the feet of the judges, and said, To the man whom these pledges belong is he by whom I am with child. Yet though I may be burned, I do not make him manifest. Nevertheless, Yahuah of the world will cause him in his heart to acknowledge them, and will deliver me from this great judgment. Now when Yehudah saw them, he recognized them, and said in his heart, It is better for me to be ashamed in this world that passeth away, than to be ashamed in the faces of my righteous fathers in the world to come. It is better that I burn in this world by a fire that is extinguished, than burn in the world to come with fire devouring fire. For measure, now listen to this. This is something that looks like that Yahusha quoted or taught. For measure is set against measure. This is according to that which I said to Yaakov my father, Know now the robe of thy son. So now am I constrained to hear at the place of judgment, who are this seal and mantle and staff. So it was like when Messiah said, with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged as well. So that's what Yehudah is essentially saying here. And Yehudah acknowledged and said, Tamar is innocent. She is with child by me. And the Bath Kol fell from heaven and said, From before me was this thing done, and let both be delivered from judgment. And Yehudah said, Because I gave her not to Shelah my son, has this happened to me. But he added to not know her again. Okay, so let's move on to Jasher 45, 23 through 24. 45, 23 through 24. And in those days, Yehuda went to the house of Shem and took Tamar, the daughter of Elam, the son of Shem. So she was Shem's granddaughter, for a wife for his son, firstborn Er. And came to his wife Tamar, and she became his wife. And when he came to her outwardly, he destroyed his seed, and his work was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah slew him. So here in Yashar, it confirms what we read in the Targums. All right, so chapter 39. And Yosef was brought down to Mitzrayim, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, a Mitzri, brought him of the hands of the Ishmaelim, which had brought him down thither. And Yahuwah was with Yosef, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Mitzri. And his master saw that Yahuwah was with him, and that Yahuwah made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Yosef found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had put into his hands. And it came to pass, from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that Yahuwah blessed the Mitzri's house for Yosef's sake. And the blessing of Yahuwah was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. So just like when Yaakov went to Laban's house, Laban was blessed, and everyone around him because for Yaakov's sake. So you would see the same thing with Yosef. And he left all, and quite frankly, those of us that are set apart unto Yahuwah and keeping his commandments, who's to say that we can't be blessings for the jobs we have, and I wouldn't put it past Yahuwah to bless the entire company you work for, because for your sake, if you're one of his set apart people. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's woman cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused and said unto his master's woman, Behold, my master knows not what is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has into my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his woman. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against Elohim? And it came to pass, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not to her to lie by her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house, and spoke unto them, saying, See, he has brought unto us an ivri, unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her, until his Adonai came home. And she spoke unto him according to these words, saying, The Ivri servant which you have brought unto us came in unto mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his woman, which she spoke unto him, saying, After this manner did your servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him, and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in prison. But Yahuwah was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. And the keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because Yahuwah was with him, and that which he did, Yahuwah made to prosper. So once again, we see him absolutely just taking care of him. So let's take a look at the testament of Yosef again. No, that's Simeon. So let's go to Yosef. We're gonna pick up where we left off, verse 25 through 81. How often? Now we're gonna get a more expanded version of what really went down between the Potiphar's wife and Yosef. How often did the Egyptian woman threaten me with death? How often did she give me over to punishment and then call me back and threaten me? And when I was unwilling to company with her, she said to me, Thou shalt be Lord of me, and all that is in my house, if thou wilt give myself unto me, and thou shalt be as our master. But I remembered the words of my father, and going to my chamber, I wept and prayed unto Yahuah, and I fasted in those 7 years, and I appeared to the Egyptians as one living delicately, for they that fast for Yahuah Elohim's sake receive beauty of face. And if my Lord were away from home, I drank no wine, nor for 3 days did I take my food, but I gave it to the poor and the sick. And I sought Yahuah early, and I wept for the Egyptian woman of Memphis, for very unceasingly did she trouble me. For also at night she came to me under the pretense of visiting me, and because she had no male child, she pretended to regard me as a son. And for a time she embraced me as a son, and I knew it not. But later she sought to draw me into fornication. And when I perceived it, I sorrowed unto death. And when she had gone out, I came to myself and lamented for her many days, because I recognized her guile and her deceit. And I declared unto her the words of the Most High, if haply she would turn from her evil lust. Often, therefore, she did flatter me with words as a holy man, and guilefully in her talk praised my chastity before her husband, while desiring to ensnare me when we were alone. For she lauded me openly as chaste. In secret she said unto me, Fear not my husband, for he is persuaded concerning thy chastity, for even should one tell him concerning us, he would not believe. Owing to all these things, I lay upon the ground and besought Elohim that Yahuah would deliver me from her deceit. And when she had prevailed nothing thereby, she came again to me under the plea of instruction, that she might learn the word of Elohim. And she said unto me, If thou willest that I should leave my idols, lie with me, and I will persuade my husband to depart from his idols, and we will walk in the Torah of Yahuah. And I said unto her, Yahuah willeth not that those who reverence him should be in uncleanness, nor doth he take pleasure in them that commit adultery, but in those that approach him with a pure heart and undefiled lips. But she hid her peace, longing to accomplish her evil desire. And I gave myself yet more to fasting and prayer, that Yahuah might deliver me from her. And again, at another time, she said unto me, If thou wilt not commit adultery, I will kill my husband by poison, and take thee to be my husband. I therefore, when I heard this, rent my garments, and said unto her, Woman, reverence Elohim, and do not this evil deed, lest thou be destroyed. For know indeed that I will declare this device unto all men. She therefore, being afraid, besought that I would not declare this device. And she departed, soothing me with gifts, and sending to me every delight of the sons of men. And afterwards she sent me food mingled with enchantments. And when the eunuch who brought it came, I looked up and beheld a terrible man giving me the dish with a sword. And I perceived that her scheme was to beguile me. And when he had gone out, I wept, nor did I taste that or any other of her food. So then after one day she came to me and observed the food, and said unto me, Why is it that you have not eaten the food? And I said unto her, It is because you have filled it with deadly enchantments. And how saidst thou, I come not near to idols, but to Yahuah alone? Now therefore, know that Elohim of my father hath revealed unto me by his angel thy wickedness, and I have kept it to convict thee, if haply thou mayest see and repent. But that thou mayest learn that the wickedness of the ungodly hath no power over them that worship Elohim with chastity, behold, I will take of it and eat it before thee. And having so said, I prayed thus, The Elohim of my fathers and the angel of Abraham be with me, and ate. And when she saw this, she fell upon her face at my feet weeping, and I raised her up and admonished her. And she promised to do this iniquity no more. But her heart was still set upon evil, and she looked around how to ensnare me. And sighing deeply, she became downcast, though she was not sick. And when her husband saw her, he said unto her, Why is thy countenance fallen? And she said unto him, I have pain at my heart, and the groanings of my spirit oppress me. And so he comforted her. He comforted her who was not sick. Then accordingly, seizing an opportunity, she rushed unto me while her husband was yet without, and said unto me, I will hang myself, or cast myself over a cliff, if thou wilt not lie with me. And when I saw the spirit of Beliar was troubling her, I prayed unto Yahuah, and said unto her, Why, wretched woman, art thou troubled and disturbed, blinded through sins? Remember that if thou killest thyself, Asteho, the concubine of thy husband, thy rival, will beat thy children, and will destroy thy memorial from off the earth. And she said unto me, Lo, then thou lovest me. Let this suffice me. Only strive for my life and my children, and I expect that I shall enjoy my desire also. But she knew not that because of my Adonai that I spake thus, and not because of her. He's saying for Potiphar's sake, not for her sake. For if a man hath fallen before the passion of a wicked desire and become enslaved by it, even as she, whatever good thing he may hear with regard to that passion, he receiveth it with a view to his wicked desire. I declare therefore unto you, my children, that it was about the 6th hour when she departed from me, and I knelt before Yahuah all day and all night, and about dawn, I rose up weeping the while and praying for a release from her. At last then she laid hold of my garments, forcibly dragging me to have connection with her. When therefore I saw that in her madness she was holding fast my garment, I left it behind and fled away naked. And holding fast the garment, she falsely accused me. And when her husband came, he cast me into prison in his house. And on the morrow he scourged me and sent me into Pharaoh's prison. And when I was in bonds, the Egyptian woman was oppressed with grief, and she came and heard how I gave thanks unto Yahuah and sang praises in the abode of darkness, and with glad voice rejoiced, glorifying Elohim, that I was delivered from the lustful desire of the Egyptian woman. And often she hath sent unto me, saying, Consent to fulfill my desire, and I will release thee from thy bonds, and I will free thee from the darkness. And not even in thought did I incline unto her. For Elohim loveth him who in a den of wickedness combines fasting with chastity, rather than the man who in king's chambers combines luxury with license. And if a man liveth in chastity, and desireth also glory, and the Most High knoweth that it is expedient for him, he bestoweth this upon upon me. How often, though she were sick, did she come down to me at unlooked for times, and listen to my voice as I prayed. And when I heard her groanings, I held my peace. For when I was in her house, she was wont to bare her arms and breasts and legs, that I might lie with her. For she was very beautiful, splendidly adorned in order to beguile me. And Yahuah guarded me from her devices. That's strength, brothers and sisters. That is strength to withstand wickedness, especially with everything that she did. So we're going to look at Jasher 44 now. Actually, so we'll go back. Jasher 44, 55 through 79. And again, we read these other books to get a full grasp of really what's going on here. And it's brought me a lot of joy doing so. And when Zelicah, so here in the book of Jasher, Yashar, we find out that Potiphar's wife's name is Zelicah. Excuse me. And when Zelicah saw that Joseph's garment was torn, and that he had left it in her hand, and had fled, she was afraid of her life, lest the report should spread concerning her. And she rose up and acted with cunning, and put off the garments in which she was dressed, and she put on her other garments. And she took Joseph's garments, and she laid it beside her. And she went and seated herself in the place where she had sat in her illness, before the people of her house had gone out to the river. And she called a young lad who was then in the house, and she ordered him to call the people of her house to her. And when she saw them, she said unto them with a loud voice in lamentation, See what a Hebrew your master has brought to me in the house, for he came this day to lie with me. For when you had gone out, he came to the house, seeing that there was no person in the house. He came unto me, and caught hold of me, with intent to lie with me. And I seized his garments, and tore them, and called out against him with a loud voice. And when I had lifted up my voice, he was afraid of his life, and left his garment before me, and fled. And the people of her house spoke nothing, but their wrath was very much kindled against Joseph. And they went to his master, and told him the words of his wile. And Potiphar came home and enraged, and his wife cried out to him, saying, What is this thing that thou hast done to me, bringing a Hebrew servant into my house? For he came to me this day to sport with me. Thus did he do unto me this day. And Potiphar heard the words of his wife, and he ordered Joseph to be punished with severe stripes, and they did so to him. And whilst they were smiting him, Joseph called out with a loud voice, and he lifted up his eyes to heaven, and he said, O Yahuah Elohiym, thou knowest that I am innocent of all these things. And why shall I die this day through falsehood, by the hand of these uncircumcised wicked men, whom thou knowest? And whilst Potiphar's men were beating Joseph, he continued to cry out and weep. And there was a child there, 11 months old. And Yahuah opened the mouth of the child, and he spake these words before Potiphar's men, who were smiting Joseph, saying, What do you want of this man? And why do you do this evil unto him? My mother speaketh falsely and uttereth lies. Thus was the transaction. And the child told them accurately all that happened, and all the words of Zelicah to Joseph day after day did he declare unto them. And all the men heard the words of the child, and they wondered greatly at the child's words. And the child ceased to speak and became still. And Potiphar was very much ashamed at the words of his son. And he commanded his men not to beat Joseph any more, and the men ceased beating Joseph. And Potiphar took Joseph and ordered him to be brought to justice before the priests, who were judges belonging to the king, in order to judge him concerning this affair. And Potiphar and Joseph came before the priests, who were the king's judges. And he said unto them, Decide, I pray you, what judgment is due to a servant, for thus has he done. And the priest said unto Joseph, Why didst thou do this thing to thy master? And Joseph answered him, saying, Not so, my lords, thus was the matter. And Potiphar said unto Joseph, Surely I entrusted in thy hands all that belonged to me, and I withheld nothing from thee but my wife. And how couldst thou do this evil? And Joseph answered, saying, Not so, my lord, as Yahuah liveth, and as thy soul liveth, my lord, the word which thou didst hear from thy wife is untrue, for thus was the affair this day. A year has elapsed to me since I have been in thy house, and hast thou seen any iniquity in me, or anything in which might cause thee to demand my life? And the priest said unto Potiphar, Send, we pray thee, and let them bring before us Joseph's torn garments, and let us see the tear in it. And if it shall be that the tear is in the front of the garment, then his face must have been opposite her, and she must have caught hold of him to come to her, and with deceit did thy wife do all that she had spoken. And they brought Joseph's garment before the priests who were judges, and they saw, and behold, the tear was in front of Joseph. And all the judging priests knew that she had pressed him, and they said, The judgment of death is not due to this slave, for he has done nothing. But the judgment is that he be placed in the prison house on account of the report which through him has gone forth against thy wife. And Potiphar heard their words, and he placed them in the prison house, the place where the king's prisoners are confined. And Joseph was in the house of confinement 12 years. And, one thing I really enjoy about this passage here is it totally makes sense, because if Joseph was caught trying to commit adultery with his master's wife, he would have been executed hands down. And so this makes sense to me that a trial had gone forth, and they realized what had happened. And so to spare Potiphar and his wife's embarrassment, they just put Joseph in jail instead of killing him. So anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting as well. So let's go to the last chapter of this portion, chapter 40. And we will, we'll read up to verse 23, and then we'll talk about it. Excuse me. Genesis 40, and it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Mitzrayim and his baker had offended their lord, the king of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh was wroth against his two officers, against the chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Mitzrayim, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me. And in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup. And I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head, and restore you unto your place, and you shall deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand after the former manner when you were his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with you, and show kindness, I pray you, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Ivrim, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into this dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon thy head, upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up your head from off you, and shall hang you on a tree, and the birds shall eat your flesh from off you. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants. And he lifted up the heads of the chief butler and the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. So now we'll take a look, and let's just talk a second, actually, about the patience of Joseph. Think about this. Up until this point, he did nothing wrong, and he was sold into slavery. He was put into prison, and it ended up being 12 years in prison. But think about the patience of Joseph, and he didn't backbite. He didn't complain. He trusted in Yahuah. Well, mostly. We'll find out, actually. I'll explain to you what I mean by that. Let's take a look at Yashar 46, 15 through 20. In those days the queen was about to be delivered, and upon that day she bare a son unto the king of Egypt. And they proclaimed that the king had gotten his firstborn son, and all the people of Egypt together with the officers and servants of Pharaoh rejoiced greatly. And upon the 3rd day of his birth Pharaoh made a feast for his officers and servants, for the host of the land of Zoar and the land of Egypt. And all the people And all the people of Egypt and the servants of Pharaoh came to eat and drink with the king at the feast of his son, and to rejoice at the king's rejoicing. And all the officers of the king and his servants were rejoicing at that time for 8 days at the feast. And they made merry with all sorts of musical instruments, with timbrels, with dances in the king's house for 8 days. And the butler to whom Joseph had interpreted his dream forgot Joseph, and he did not mention him to the king as he had promised. For this thing was from Yahuah, in order to punish Joseph because he had trusted in man. And Joseph remained after that in this prison house for 2 years until he had completed 12 years. So this is like the only thing we can see that Joseph ever did wrong, is that he trusted, or hoped at least, or as it's written, trusted, hoped in the butler to get him out by talking to Pharaoh. So we see that it was from Yahuah that the butler forgot this in order to punish Joseph because he had trusted in man. So, we can really stand to learn a lot in this Torah portion, really about patience. And it's something that I personally need to learn more of, patience, and especially patience in tribulation, patience in trial, patience in the midst of calamities, patience in the midst of temptations or persecutions or whatever it may be. And I think we really can learn something here from Joseph about patience and to trust Yahuah with all of our heart, because he really did no wrong. And this, what we just read here, is probably the only little thing that he probably did wrong, at least that we know of. And how much more should we be patient, because most of us probably are all transgressors and deserve to die. So certainly if he puts some trials and tribulations before us, we need to be patient. And we in speaking with some of you all, just through messages, comments, phone calls, local gatherings, whatever, we all seem to have our own trials, and they're all so different sometimes. For a lot of us, it's unequally yoked households, different with spouses that either don't believe or don't want to follow the way. That's really tough, and I know how you feel. There's just so many different things. There's so many different trials for some of you, financially, especially with what's going on in the economy out there, and jobs, and social masking, and all this nonsense. But whatever it is, there's no way I could speak to all of you on your individual situations of what you're going through, but more than likely, probably at least 80% of you are going through something right now that's some sort of trial or temptation. So let us gain strength from the patience of Joseph, and let us learn, and let us be found patiently awaiting deliverance from on high. Even if you're currently praying, and maybe even fasting and praying some more, and asking Yahuah to deliver you from whatever it may be. Just, and I'm talking to myself here too. I'm not sitting on a high horse, trust me, because boy, oh boy, I've got my trials as well. So let us be patiently awaiting for Yahuah to deliver us out of whatever we're seeking deliverance from. So, in any case, so that's the Torah portion. That's Vayeshev, and pray it was a blessing for you. Pray that maybe you might have learned something new. Maybe you didn't, but nevertheless, I pray it be a blessing for you and your family, and most importantly for the Most High. So let's pray. We'll do the blessing, and we'll finish out this evening. So, Heavenly Father, Yahuah Most High, we just come before you in Yahusha's name, and we again just thank you for the ability to assemble like this, even if it be online and we can't see each other's faces. We just still thank you for the ability to gather together like this and to learn from your just amazing word. We thank you, as always, for Messiah Yahusha, for bringing us back to you and reconciling us and forgiving us through our belief and faithfulness. We thank you for opening our eyes to the Torah, and may you continue to do so, that we may hearken to your word and to keep it with all that we have. And we pray that we can learn from righteous Yosef, to have patience and endurance, and to lean on you, and to know that even if it takes time, that you will deliver those that faithfully keep your ways, and not fall into temptations and other wicked devices. We love you, we bless you, and we say Shabbat Shalom to you, O Yahuah, and we long the day to Shabbat with you forever. Amen and Amen. Yevarechecha Yahuah veyishmerecha Ya'er Yahuah panav elecha v'chuneka Yisa Yahuah panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yahuah bless you and keep you. Yahuah make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Shabbat shalom, brothers and sisters. May Yahuah bless you, and may he make your Shabbat just very restful, and have a blessed one. And I hope you're able to rest. I hope you're able to recoup. I hope you're able to rejuvenate. And as the book of Yahuah Elohiym, Jubilees 2:22 says, to eat and to drink and to bless him who has created all things, and as he has separated people unto himself, a peculiar people above all peoples, and they shall guard the Shabbat with him. Amen. Shabbat shalom, brothers and sisters.
I sing to Yahuah, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea. Yah is my strength and song, and he has become my deliverance. He is my El, and I praise him, Elohim of my father, and I exalt him. Yahuah is a man of battle, Yahuah is his name. He has cast Pharaoh's chariots and his army into the sea, and his chosen officers are drowned in the sea of reeds. The depths covered them, they went down to the bottom like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahuah, has become great in power. Your right hand, O Yahuah, has crushed the enemy. And in the greatness of your excellence, you pulled down those who rose up against you. You sent forth your wrath, it consumed them like stubble. And with the wind of your nostrils, the waters were heaped up. The floods stood like a wall, the depths became stiff in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I pursue, I overtake, I divide the spoil, my being is satisfied on them. I draw out my sword, my hand destroys them. You blew with your wind, the sea covered them, they sank like lead in the mighty waters. Who is like you, O Yahuah, among the mighty ones? Who is like you, great in Kodeshah, awesome in praises, working wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your kindness, you led the people whom you have redeemed. In your strength, you guided them to your Kodesh dwelling. Peoples heard, they trembled, anguish gripped the inhabitants of Pelasheth. Then the chiefs of Edom were troubled, the mighty men of Moab. Trembling grips them, all the inhabitants of Canaan melted. Fear and dread fell on them by the greatness of your arm. They are as silent as a stone. Until your people pass over, O Yahuah. Until the people whom you have bought pass over. You bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, in the place, O Yahuah, which you have made for your own dwelling, the Mikdash, O Yahuah, which your hands have prepared. Yahuah reigns forever and ever.